Welcome to NIO Studio. Hello learners. In this course, we will learn prehistoric art, medieval art, contemporary art and folk and tribal art. Today, we are going to look into the Mughal painting. In the previous lesson, we learnt about medieval art, and in this lesson, we will be learning about the paintings of Mughal painting and the style and the evolution of it. This style of painting were flourished and patronized under the Mughal rulers during the 16th and 17th centuries. Humayun, the second Mughal ruler, brought the miniature painting tradition from Persia and continued for about 3 centuries in India. These are the objectives you would be aiming at, and we will explain about the background and evolution of Mughal period miniature paintings and the artists, and you will be able to describe the methods and materials and the characteristics of the miniature painting and also understand the style of the enlisted miniature paintings. The first Mughal emperor of India was Babur, who was a man of aesthetic sensibilities. It is likely that there were some painters in his entourage. However, the paintings of his time aren't available. The Persian masters Mir Sayyid Ali and Abdul al-Samad joined the court of Humayun, the son of Babur, who retired from his exile in Persia. It was only under Akbar that Mughal art developed a distinct style. It came into being as a result, a synthesis of Indian and Persian elements. He patronized an atelier in which around 100 to 150 painters were under the supervision of Persian masters Mir Sayyid Ali and Abdul Samad. A large number of manuscripts of Indian and Persian classics and historical chronicles were illustrated. Aristocratic and secular in nature were the observations which we could see from these paintings. European pictures and engravings brought to the Mughal courts by the travelers influenced the Mughal paintings in the increased use of shading and linear perspectives technically. To make a single painting, several artists worked together according to their expertise in drawing, coloring and landscape, etc. Akbar's son Jahangir was himself a great connoisseur of art and took pride in his critical power of observation. Numerous portraits, court scenes and episodes from his own life, also the allegorical paintings, were executed with great mastery of skill during his reign. Jahangir was an ardent lover of nature, and some remarkable studies of birds, animals and flowers were known from his period. The reign of Shah Jahan was associated with the great building activity, and works of high technical excellence were produced during this time. Fine paintings of his period are primarily of court scenes and idealized portraits. Under the last great Mughal ruler Aurangzeb patronage, the art and architecture declined due to a lack of patronage at the Mughal court. Painters migrated to Hyderabad, Rajasthan and the Punjab hill states. Aurangzeb's successors in the 18th century were addicted to luxury and the art of painting lost its earlier glory. This is one of the example from the Mughal painting where the Babur is hunting rhinoceros. Babur was an Timrud and his observation and comments in his memoirs reflects his interest in nature, society, politics and economics. His vivid accounts of events covered not only his life but also the history and geography of the area. Miniature paintings are small format paintings which were usually painted by the artist with minute details, especially to be used in the books or the albums. The forward march of the elephant, the movement of the horses and the gestures of the soldiers and the emperors adds to the dynamism of the hunting scene in the painting you have seen. This painting has been taken from the manuscript of Baburnama. The medium of the painting is watercolor on paper. This miniature shows the hunting rhinoceros by Babur. In the background of the painting, there are hills with amount of trees. The figures in the background are smaller than the figures in the foreground, which achieves certain perspective and the depth. The lighter shades of color in the background and the darker shades in the foreground also helps in this show. The plants and the animals are painted with rhythmic lines where the subject is rich in variety. The composition is well packed with minute details like action and motion in figures and the decorative clothes. The elephant is decorated with a floral design with delicate lines with all the details. The border of the cloths has a dark shades with rich colors. This picture shows a hunting scene in which the Babur is shown. The elephant which is running after the rhino. The feeling of force and the expressions on each portrait makes this painting a great masterpiece. Also, there are only a few human figures in the background and foreground. The running and the trapping the rhino from all the sides and the rhino trying to escape from the trap and runs fearlessly. This painting brings forth the intensity of a real hunt. In Mughal miniatures, the outlines were drawn with a fine brush, then the painter begins to paint the sky and then the background. The figures are drawn after. Finally, the colors are applied where the artist uses the natural and mineral colors. Here is another example of Prince with a falcon. You see very bright and rich colors and all the details filled in. This miniature is taken from the Jahangir's period and painted by Ustad Mansoor. Ustad Mansoor was a famous painter of Jahangir's time and also a very good portrait painter, which is an example of excellence. Jahangir is known for his love of nature and patronage of miniature painting. Ustad Mansoor, the artist of this painting, is known for the minuteness of his work with fine brush and delicate sense of colors. Prince with the Falcon is one of the excellent examples of painting by Ustad Mansoor. The flat hues and the rich bright colors like green, red, yellow, ochre, black, etc. are used in this painting, where An emperor is wearing a glove in one hand and holds the falcon as he stands against the flat background of the sky. Although no horizon is seen, the clouds and the birds imply space in the painting. Ustad Mansoor is known for his studies of birds too. The claws of the falcon are tied with a decorative string, and the bird's contour with linear outline is wonderfully expressed, and there is a pleasant expression on both the faces. The prince is admiring the falcon in his hand. The profile of the prince is shown in the painting. The artist has tried to achieve 3 dimensions by the colors used, where you can see the wings of the falcon which are spread in the air. This painting is made on paper with opaque colors with a touch of gold and ink. Pigments used in painting were obtained from the minerals, ochres and the vegetable extracts, lacti and insects dyestuff. There were 5 basic colors, where the black was obtained from the burnt conch shell, and white from the chalk, yellow ochre, red from the vermilion and green from vegetables. Where Mansoor was a leading member of the 17th century Jahangir studio of the Mughal painters, famed for his animal and bird studies. The Emperor Jahangir honored him with the title Wonder of the Age, and in his memoirs, Jahangir praises Mansoor as unique in his generation in the art of drawing. Mansoor was primarily a natural history painter who avoided personal expression in his careful studies, where he made many studies of natural life under the direct orders of his patron, who was passionately fond of recording the rare specimens that were brought before him. A turkey cock painted about 1612, which is in the Albert Museum in London, is attributed to Mansoor and marks that bird's first appearance in India. Similarly, while on a trip to the Vale of Kashmir, Jahangir ordered Mansoor to paint as many varieties of local flowers as possible, stating in his memoir that the number depicted exceeded 100. Here is another example of Mughal painting, which is called barbet. This miniature belongs to the Jahangir period too, and Jahangir was a great lover of nature, had the maximum number of paintings on birds and animals which were done in this period. The barbet is a famous painting by Ustad Mansoor. He was also one of the best Mughal portrait artists. This painting is an example of a great piece of art from the Mughal period. The study of nature by the Mughal artist with delicate lines, the stems of the trees, leaves and the hills, and the use of nature study gives a very real impact to these paintings. This painting is a fine example of bird study. Mansoor specialized in depicting plants and animals. Here the barbet, which is Himalayan blue-throated bird, is sitting on a branch. The artist has painted the branches and leaves with delicate lines and colors. Perspective can also be seen by smaller leaves in the background and the larger leaves on the foreground. The main subject is framed by an intricately executed border called hassia. The inner border is decorated with calligraphy and the outer is decorated with the floral ornamentation. The calligraphy is in Persian script. The bird barbet has a sharp beak and round vigilant eyes. The bird's head is bent towards the branch. The colors of the bird is dark against the light background. It is yellow ochre with a tinge of blue in its feathers. The blue color on the neck and the bright red colors on the head of the barbet are the center of attraction. The colors in this miniature are rich and bright. Outlines were drawn with a brush using green color. This miniature is done in tempera on paper. The pigment used in these paintings were obtained from minerals, ochres and vegetable extracts. There are 5 basic colors in this painting too, which it produces, or copies which were made with the aid of transparent paper, and then the sketches are outlined onto it. Here comes another example from Mughal painting, which is Jahangir holding a picture of Madonna. Before getting into the details of this painting, let's take a small break and come back.
प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने, अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने। धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो, धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो। कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोट से युक्त हो, कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोट से युक्त हो। मित्रों हम पढ़े और जागे, मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने, अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने। अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बहुत
Welcome back, learners. We were about to discuss Jahangir holding a picture of Madonna. This painting by where the Jahangir holding a picture of Madonna is an example of Mughal rulers' interest in different religions. It is a portrait of Jahangir with a picture of Madonna or Mother Mary. The respect for European culture can also be seen in this painting. A portrait means a painting or a picture in which we can identify the individual by face. Abul Hassan was one of the famous and dedicated artists of Jahangir's atelier, which was done by this particular artist. Learner, you know that it is an allegorical painting, and let's see what it means. Jahangir is holding the picture of Mary. His mother's name was Maryam uz Zaman. In this context, the portrait of Mary is probably a reference to his mother. Abul Hassan, who flourished in 17th century Delhi, India, was one of the leading Mughal painters of the Emperor Jahangir's atelier, honored by the emperor with the title Nadir al-Zaman, which translates as Wonder of the Age. Abul al-Hasan was the son of Aka Reza of Herat, who worked with Jahangir before his accession to the throne. Abu al-Hasan was trained in painting under the careful tutelage of the emperor, who praised him as having no rival or equal and took pride in having personally formed him at his court. Paintings of Abu al-Hasan that live or have survived include the famous chinar tree with squirrels in the Indian Office Library and a large number of superb portraits. His study of European prints may have reinforced his naturalism and sympathy for his subjects. He is known to have worked early in the reign of Shah Jahan too. A man of immense visual alertness, Jahangir gave special importance to portraiture. His period was will be remembered in the particular and recognizable characteristics of the work of each of his artists. Abul Hassan and Bishan Das developed their expertise as portrait painters during his reign. This small but warmly drawn portrait of Jahangir is one of the best studies of the emperor and as also one of the best portraits that the world has ever seen. Jahangir, like his father, was liberal to all religions. His interest in Christianity is shown by holding the picture of Virgin Mary. The emperor's head is set in a nimbus with fine rays radiating from the circle. The portrait is small and placed at the center of the composition, which is unique and different from the other portraits. The portrait, which is in profile and has a prominent nose, a big head, and the soft colors and the golden appearances with minute details and delicate lines, which is the main characteristics of Jahangir's school. The speciality of this painting is the various decorative borders around the portrait, the border which are decorated with floral designs executed in gold. The inner borders are made differently as they are not symmetrical from all sides. Two rectangles with dark colored borders in which the manuscripts are written in rich colors on light background. In the upper rectangle, we can see two blocks in the corner with floral designs. In this work, the fine color mixing, bold execution, rhythm in lines, well packed composition with minute details, well proportioned around the face, and depiction of motions indicate an influence of European style. This miniature painting was done with tempera or the watercolor on paper. Earth colors were used on the paper, which are obtained from the natural sources. The use of gold lines can be easily observed in the portrait. The brush used were of various sizes and shapes. The finest brush used for drawing as the single hairbrush. Of different animal hairs were used for this brush making, like Persian cats or the squirrels' hair. Bishan Das is one another artist who flourished in 17th century India, was one of the most skilled portrait painters of the 17th century's Jahangir school of Mughal painting. Almost nothing is known of his life, though his name indicates that he was a Hindu. Bishan Das was praised by the Emperor Jahangir as unequalled in his age for taking likeness, and was sent with the embassy to Persia, where he remained from 1613 to 1620 to paint portraits of the Shah and the chief members of his court. The portraits so pleased Jahangir had that Bishan Das was honoured with the gifts of an elephant. Some of the Mughal portraits of Persian noblemen may be assumed to be the work of Bishan Das. He was also contributing to the Delights of Canopus, a book of fables which is now in British Museum, and several fine portraits in the albums made for the emperor. The Mughal school often depicted the scenes from the royal courts, showcasing emperors, courtiers, and their extravagant lifestyles. Portraits of rulers and nobility were prevalent, highlighting the opulence and grandeur of Mughal courts. Nature was a significant theme in Mughal paintings. Especially during Akbar's reign, artists like Mansoor were known for their detailed and realistic depictions of flora and fauna. Hunting scenes where the emperors engaged in the sport were also popular subjects. This style of painting is confined mainly to book illustrations and the production of individual miniatures, which evolved in India during the reign of Mughal emperors. In its initial phases, it showed some indebtedness to the Safavid school of Persian painting, but rapidly moved away from the Persian ideals. Probably the earliest example of Mughal painting is the illustrated folk tales or the Tales of Parrot, which is at the Cleveland Museum. Mughal painting was essentially a court art. It developed under the patronage of the ruling Mughal emperors and began to decline when the rulers lost interest. The subjects treated were generally secular, consisting of illustrations to historical works and Persian and Indian literature. Portraits of the emperor and his court, studies of natural life and genre scenes. The school had its beginnings during the reign of Mughal Emperor Humayun, who invited two Persian artists, Mir Sayyid Ali and Khwaja Abdul Samad, to join him in India. The earliest and most important undertaking of the school was series of large miniatures of Dastan-e-Amir Hamza, undertaken during the reign of Akbar. which when completed. Also, it numbered 1400 illustrations of unusually large size, of the 200 or so that have survived. Though retaining the upright format, general setting and the flat aerial perspective of Persian paintings, the Indian artists of Akbar court exhibited an increasing naturalism and detailed observation of the world around them. Akbar's fondness for history resulted in the commissioning of such dynamic illustrated histories as the Akbarnama, which is History of Akbar. An empathy for animals is evident in the illustration of the animal fables, particularly the Khalila wa Dimna and others. Other outstanding series are the illustration of Persian name Razam Nama for the Hindu epic Mahabharata and Diwan of Hafiz. Outstanding painters of the period were Daswant and Baswan. Less emphasis was given to book illustrations during the period of Jahangir, where instead Jahangir preferred court scenes, portraits and animal studies, which were assembled in albums, many of them with richly decorated margins. The style shows technically advancement in the fine brushworks, the compositions are less crowded, colors are more subdued and movement is much less dynamic. The artist of the Jahangir period exhibited a sensitive understanding of human nature and an interest in the psychological subtleties of portraiture. Noted painters of the period were Hassan and who was called as the wonder of the age, and the Bishan Das, praised for his portraiture, and Ustad Mansur, who excelled in animal studies. The elegance and richness of the Jahangir period style continued during the reign of Shah Jahan, but with an increasing tendency to become cold and rigid. Genre scenes such as musical parties, lovers on a terrace, or ascetics gathered around a fire became frequent, and the trend continued in the reign of Aurangzeb. Despite a brief revival during the reign of Muhammad Shah, Mughal painting continued to decline and creative activity ceased during the reign of Alam II. The technique of Mughal painting in the initial phases often involved a team of artists, one determining the composition, a second doing the actual coloring, and perhaps a specialist in portraiture worked on the individual faces. Manohar was another artist who flourished between 1580 and 1620, a leading miniaturist of the Mughal school of painting in India, noted for his outstanding manuscript illustrations, portraits and a few animal studies. He was the son of celebrated painter Basavan. Manohar executed his work primarily between 1580 and 1620 and spanned the reign of emperors Akbar and Jahangir. He primarily depicts the richness of Mughal court life and etiquette. He was acquainted with the Western painting and incorporated small sections in his earlier work. The splendid picture depicting Jahangir in the hall of private audience when encamped at the city of Ajmer is one of his greatest works. There is some speculation that he later entered the atelier of Prince Dara Shikoh, the son of Emperor Shah Jahan. Daswant, who is also another artist, flourished during 16th century, was a leading Mughal artist cited by Abdul Fasad, the historiographer of the Emperor Akbar court, as having surpassed all painters to become the first master of the age. Little is known about his life, though it is conjectured that he was a Hindu, probably a humble origin. He came to the attention of Akbar, who personally placed him under the tutelage of Persian master Khwaja Abdul Samad. Only a few miniature bearings in his name have survived. The large majority of them illustrating the Jaipur Ramzana and Persian name for Indian epic Mahabharata. These works were designed by Daswan but painted by his associates. A miniature in the Cleveland Museum's manuscript copy of Duthinama is the only painting on which he worked alone. Even the little that has survived is sufficient to justify his reputation. Of unstable mind, he killed himself in a fit of madness. With this information, here we end it now. Thank you, learners. Hope you have enjoyed the information and details around Mughal paintings of India. Keep exploring and be curious. Let's meet again with a new topic.